So in order to continue doing multiplayer, we have to fix the bugs that are basically making it so that we can only play single player. So single player works great, but when you hop into co-op mode, instantly we're getting these null reference exceptions. Now, I'm assuming that no matter how you built this game, you're probably getting a similar result. So looking at this, we need to debug this and figure out what is wrong here. We have here co-op mode loading and player lives 3. These logs tell us where we are in the execution. So here we can see that our UI manager was successfully called. However, as soon as we got into our spawn manager starting the routine, this is where things get kind of wonky. So if I actually just click it once, you'll see here that the spawn manager in the hierarchy is highlighted yellow automatically. This tells us that there's something wrong with the spawn manager. Also, if we actually just read the error, it says object reference not set to an instance of an object, and it's pointing to the spawn manager script on line 32 and line 41. If you double click it, it will take you to those lines. Now, for both of these, basically, I'm assuming that our game manager is null. So in order to fix this, we need to actually change the logic, I believe, of where we're calling this. So what I want to know is, where does this function or routine get called? And it gets called right here by start spawn routines. So what I need to figure out is who is calling this method. So let's go ahead and right click the method. If you highlight it, right click, and there's a function called find all references. And this will tell me where in my game everyone is calling this method. And as you can see here, it's called twice. We have the declaration, which is here, and then this function is actually called from our player script. So if spawn manager is not null, spawn manager.start spawn routines. And what's happening here is I think the game manager and the spawn manager is null. So we need to adjust this logic so that maybe we don't call it from the player, but maybe we call it from the game manager. So when the game is ready to be played. So I'm going to go ahead here in the player, and if spawn manager is not equal to null, spawn manager.start spawning routine, I'm going to remove this. So I don't want to delete it in case I want to add it back later. So I'm just going to comment it out with a block comment. I can go ahead and write a /* and then down here // and that will comment out anything in between there. So I'm going to save this script. Now I still need to call this start spawn routine, but I'm going to do it from the game manager, because you'll see here that the game manager controls when we actually play the game. So here, as soon as we hide the title screen, this would be a pretty good time to start the spawning sequence. So all we have to do now is we need to get a reference to the spawn manager, and then we need to call start spawn sequence. So let's create a private handle. So here we have our private handle of spawn manager. We'll call it spawn manager. The next thing I need to do is I need to get a handle. I need to find that component to assign it to my handle. So we'll say spawn manager equals GameObject.find. And then the next thing we want to do is find what object. Where does my spawn manager live? Well, we have a game object called spawn_manager. I need to find this game object and get the component. Head back to our code. We'll say we'll find game object, and once we found the object, we'll get the component that we want, which is spawn manager. Okay, so I have the spawn manager. Once we hide our title screen, we can go ahead and say spawn manager dot start spawn routines. We'll save this, and that should fix any errors that we have. Let's go ahead and save this. Run our game. I want to make sure single player still works. And it does. Everything looks pretty solid. Let's go ahead and rerun it. And let's go ahead and check out co-op mode. You'll see here, co-op mode looks good. No errors so far. I'm going to hit space. And there we go. So a few things happen. For starters, I control everyone, and I control actions of everyone. You'll see here that I am now all 3 players. So this is going to get to where we now need to define and separate the logic. We know we're in co-op mode, but our players doesn't. Our player has no idea it's in co-op mode. And if we're in co-op mode, we don't want to instantiate a new player. Instead, we want to use the existing players on screen. I'll see you in the next challenge.